Yes. Let's see it. Somebody, you've spoken before, just to make sure other people get a
Yeah,
chance.
sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
My experience for coming out is more, it's not rejection, it's more like people are disappointed that I couldn't tell them, like they thought they knew me completely. And then they said, you couldn't trust me to tell me this before, like from my mother and from friends. They thought they knew me completely, and then suddenly I come up with this, that I'm gay, and they're like, well, not, the first reaction like, no, you're not. And then they'll say, yes, I am. And then they're like, but you never told me, I never knew, and they feel hurt about it, but it's not a rejection. Like, they get over that and they feel better, and it's over. I never experienced all this hate of you're possessed or whatever.
That's good.
They're okay now? Yeah.
Sam?
Yes.
Raphael, you make a good point, that we underestimate others. Again, the life script, we think we know what they are. I mean, just last week, my son sat there and said, I made a statement to him, said, Dad, I never thought I'd hear you say that. I said, well, I guess you don't know me as well as you thought you did. We don't know each other, and we paint them, and we think we know exactly what they're going to do. We don't.
Okay, I want to take one more, because we just have a few more minutes. Unfortunately, we could do this for another hour easily. But I saw one question over here, and I wanted to give the panelists, if you had a sort of wrap up or something else you wanted to say and haven't had a chance to say yet. But did you have a question still, or did we lose it? Yeah.
I was just going to make a comment on the parental thing.
Okay, okay. Maybe one other burning sort of,
Well, just a thought about acceptance working both ways, and I really was taken by Joe McCrory's comments this morning about remembering that people who may have negative feelings learned them from people that they loved, and I thought of it again when David was talking about having some negative reactions, and he accepted them, and I think that sometimes is a good tool. That it's like you can find love through loving, and you can be more respected because you're respectful. And I think sometimes acceptance can work that way as well, is to really accept where people are, even if it's not where you want them to be, and then that can be a way to come to an understanding and maybe move forward.
Thanks. We've got a great panel on both sides of the table here. But I just want to give another, since you guys prepared for this, it's another chance to sort of say anything that you felt like you wanted to include before we wrap up in about 2 minutes. Well, I'm not the editor, so we can take it from this. Go ahead.
No, along those lines, I actually jotted down some notes from what Bill was saying over there. So but along those lines of those who have the ability to come out and to have these discussions and have this dialogue. I mean, I know it's not for everybody, but if you have that ability, we have sort of, because we've been through it, we sort of have a responsibility to help bring others out, to help ease that transition process, because I mean, we've all been there, we've all sort of gone through it, either as a parent or as a friend or as the gay person themselves. We sort of had to go through that, and that anguish and that agony that builds there. If we had someone helping us along, that makes things so much better. So we can actually turn and become that person by sort of, as you were saying, turning that acceptance on its head and sort of being like, okay, I know you're not there yet, but I'm going to accept your bigoted answer and move forward from there and have that dialogue, and I will tolerate that, and then I will accept it, and then hopefully you will embrace me.
I just real quick want to say thanks for those that have made their stories public, like either on a blog or when I read those stories by Carolyn Pearson, because some people were willing to write down their stories, and that's really made a difference for me.
But before you conclude, give us some advice. What advice do you have for us facilitating acceptance from our families
So
as a straight person?
Yeah, we talked about a couple different ways, like some that are more subtle, getting to know, like building that relationship first, kind of like before coming out, or being more public. Try to find something that's just a little bit, you have your comfort zone. Find something that's a little bit outside that, and expand your comfort zone a little bit. If that means being a little more public, a little more out, being a little more of an activist, or if it just means making more friends and letting yourself be known a little bit more, even if it doesn't have to do with being open. Find something that's a little bit outside and grow just a little bit.
Well, I guess one thing that strikes me is we all have roles, and we have many roles. There's, depending on who you're with at the time, you've got a different role. You've got a different role as a mother than you do as a friend, as you do it, and so forth. And I think people are forced to live within their roles, even though they may be different. And I think we have to recognize that and be careful that we don't confuse the person with the role. That when a person becomes a bishop, they step into a role that they feel they have to fill. They may not necessarily be that way personally. I like when you said, I sat down with my bishop and we did this. You didn't call him out in front of everybody, say, hey. You sat down with him, gave him a chance to, okay, now I can be a person, not the bishop. And I think that as we recognize the difference between the roles and the person, the human, I think we go much farther in being able to make gains in getting to know each other as human beings, as our needs and our wants and our desires, and being able to know how we fit in helping each other to achieve those.
Thank you so much. So I want to just, in concluding, we can talk sort of using different language. I'm going to try to Mormon language for a second. I don't do that often these days. But, it teaches us Mormons to sort of identify the spirit when you feel it. I would just like to say that I really have felt, God's spirit with us here today in talking about this, and that it is so important, this movement for greater acceptance within our families, both individual and ward families. And I feel that very kind of profoundly, as much as I've ever felt any sort of testimony before. So thank you so much for your part in this conversation, and also especially for our panelists. And so just maybe join me in just, thanking them for